Today, we're talking about how to develop a high self esteem. Welcome back to Practice, where we fuse research and culture to help you develop the mindsets, the habits, and skills that you need in order to live out your purpose with confidence. I'm your coach, Dr. Rees. Now it's time for us to get better, y'all. Let's grow. This conversation is extremely important because I feel like people we 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 kind of muddle self-esteem and confidence and um self-worth and value. There's a lot of words that kind of go out, and I think that because they're muddled, it's hard for us to really understand what is what, which is why again I'm so passionate about doing this. And so self-esteem is the precursor to confidence. Self-esteem is a like you have to have self-esteem. If I was to layer the importance or the development of human development and being able to be our most confident selves in execution and in who we are, it starts with self. You have to be able to have a firm foundation in centering your humanity. If you can't and you don't center your humanity and the importance of it and understanding that you have value and worth inherently as a human being, nothing else matters. Like you're not going to be able to have a high self-esteem. You matter of fact, you have a low self-esteem literally because you don't feel like you have value or add value. And so your self-esteem will be directly impacted by that. So there'll be no way you'll be able to be confident in yourself, in your abilities, if you do not center your humanity. Now, a thing that comes up with self-esteem is I think people just assume it's naturally developed. I think oftentimes, and we kind of hope folks develop it. And I do a lot of work with young youth and young adults, and I see that self-esteem, and I think right now is kind of at an all-time low. And that hurts to say, and it hurts to hear, and it hurts to see because how are you going to ask me to excel in a classroom when I don't even think I'm worthy? Like, how are you going to ask me to do all these things that we should be asking youth and young adults to do, as far as like socialize with other people? Like social anxiety, I would love to do use some research on this, but I feel like social anxiety is at an all-time high. Yes, you have the pandemic to kind of blame for that because a lot of people were like they were in their houses, and a lot of students who are just now graduating right now, think about it. COVID was 5 years ago now, which is so mind blowing to kind of think of. But that was a senior in high school was in eighth grade, like in going through that realm, or any kid like these COVID babies and these kids who are doing like all of that. So again, if my social anxiety is high, this could directly impact the way I feel about me. So before I even continue to go further down that realm, let's clear up what is self-esteem and why it's so important. So first, I said you have to be able to have a firm foundation in solid understanding that you as a human being matter. Like that is it, right? Like we matter, we have value, we have worth. And that again, as I always say, that you were born on purpose with a purpose to live out your purpose. But even if you don't understand or think that or conceptualize, like feel like that is something that is firm, you still have to be able to respect yourself as a human being. Bottom line, I'm a human and myself matters. The next layer is self esteem. And self esteem is literally the lens through which you see yourself through. Self esteem is the lens through which you see yourself through. If how you perceive you is tainted, is foggy, is scratched up, like think lenses. Think I'm looking at a lens right now because I'm looking at a camera. Um if you wear glasses, you're looking through lenses. If you're looking in a mirror, it's like a lens, it's giving you reflection back. Any lens that is tainted, any lens that has scratches, any lens that has lint on it, any lens that is fuzzy or foggy, it distorts your view. Hear me when I say this. Self esteem is the lens through which you see yourself through. And if that lens is distorted, your view of self will then be distorted, which will then impact the way that you think about you and perceive you, which will then impact the way that you move through the world. So, what you need to do is we need to clean the lens. We need to make sure that the lens that we are seeing ourselves through, is it have any blemishes on it? It doesn't have any scratches. It doesn't have any lint. It doesn't have any fur balls. It doesn't have anything that can distort the way that we perceive us. And the reason why that's important is because perception is everything. Perception is reality. Everybody's perception is different, but the way that I perceive certain things, like that is my reality. And so you may look at me and see me through a different lens than the lens that I see me through. So that brings me to a quote. And I'm going to say this a couple times so you can catch it. I'm not who I think I am. I am who you think I am. Sorry, let me say that again. I'm not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am. I'll say it one more time. I am not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am. So if I move through the world based off of who I think you think I am, that's wild. That means I'm putting my existence into your thought process. And it may not even on what basis. Because if I just think I am to the extent that I think that you think that I am, and it's all based off of thought. And whose thought matters more? My thought. My thoughts about me matters way more than somebody else's thoughts about me, especially if my thoughts about me are not probably the greatest, because if I think that your thoughts about me are not that. So if I allow your thoughts about me dictate my thoughts about me, that impacts everything. So we have to be able to get to a space of creating healthy thought around us. So I would ask you, the question is, how often do you think about how you think about you? How often do you think about how you think about you? Because if you have a healthy thought pattern and a healthy relationship with yourself, with how you think about you, then this impacts how you talk to you. This impacts how you move. This impacts your, again, your self esteem. So, our self esteem is our perceived view of us, it is the lens through which we see ourselves through. And if we do not have a healthy lens through which we see ourselves through, this will impact how we perceive us and then the reality to which we try to create for ourselves. Because if I don't think I can, there's a quote. It's like, um, whether you do or don't think you can, you're right. So it's like, well, you'll never attempt it if you don't think that you can, because you won't. If you think you can, then you can and you will. And so, um, it really comes down to self esteem. Comes down to being a mindset. Self esteem comes down to being how you think about you is a mindset, and you're setting your mind on, I choose to see me this way. I choose to perceive me this way. Now, you also might be thinking, well, man, the lens that I see myself through has got some scratches, it's got some blemishes, it's definitely got some dust. Cause I done dropped me a couple times, I done fumbled me a couple times. Like anybody again who wears glasses or uses a camera or even their phone or anything like that, right? You're probably like, it scratches easy. And I think that is similar to our self-esteem, which is why it's so important to have a continual self-awareness check-in system and routine. Because yes, you are not going to be flawless. Yes, you are not going to be perfect. You are going to mess up. And that could put blemishes on the lens through which you see yourself through. But, big butt, make the stallion big butt, big booty Judy big butt. You cannot allow that to dictate how you see you. So what I need you to do is I need you to get some lens cleaner, some lens remover, some type of something that clears away and makes those glasses the way that you see yourself again, that clears it up. Because I can't have you seeing yourself through the reflection of your mess ups. I can't have you seeing yourself as you're only as great or as good as necessarily like just your last performance, or your biggest fail, because you're more than both of those things. You are more than your greatest victories and your biggest downfalls. You're more than that. And this is why it's important to have a firm foundation of self understanding of your inherent worth and your inherent value, because we're going to do things that we just that make us cringe, that don't feel good. So yes, there's going to be a blemish, but in that, you got to make sure that's not how you see you. So um so I want to ask you again is, how do you see you and how do you view you? I will tell you that I personally struggled with this, whew, we um for years on end, on how I see me, how I viewed me. And to know me is to know, like, I'm open about, the struggle, whether it may be um sexually, not sexual, sexual orientation wise, or from being a part of the community, or my identity as a woman, or my identity as being black, and all these different intersections that I carry. So it made how I viewed me and how I saw me really hard to see me in a light that I was fond of. And so when we go back to what is self esteem, esteem in and of itself is having high regard. Esteem is having high regard. And when I say I struggled with being fond of me, that was that correlates to saying I didn't have and hold me in high regard. And when you don't hold yourself in high regard, you move in that way. It's literally like anything that you have that you don't really care about. Whether it's a shirt, it's some shoes, it's an old phone, it's a whatever, it's a relationship. When we don't hold something in high regard, it's easier for us to disrespect it. Period. When we don't hold something in high regard, it's easier for us to disrespect it. So if you don't have a high self esteem, it's easier for you to disrespect you. If you don't have high regard for the people that you love and the people you do life with, it's easier for you to disrespect them. And so we have to not only have a high self esteem, we also have to have high other esteem for those we do life with, and for our things in general. Like, for us to be able to take pride in who we are, the people we do life with, and for the things that we encounter. Like, everything should have a sense of high regard for the work that you put out, for the way you invest in yourself. There should be a high regard, a high value, a high sense of worth on it. Because when you add value to those things, it adds value back to you, but it increases the esteem holistically. And when the esteem of something increases, you respect it more, period. And I'm being so intentional about growing in this area of my life because I just want to be that much better. Not that much better than anybody else, but just that much better in the sense of, how do I love me better? How do I love my lady better? How do I be a better parent? How do I be a better CEO? How do I be a better friend? How do I be a better, just, I want to be better. I just want to be better. I have a hunger and a thirst and a yearning to be better. And I believe it starts with esteem, because esteem is regard. Esteem is value. And when you have those things in place and you have an esteem and a high regard for something, it dictates how you move. It dictates how you encounter and interact with that thing. It also, I believe, it shifts the energy that comes back to you, and the energy that permeates through you. And so, um, when I struggled with having high self esteem, um, I wasn't very kind to myself, and I wasn't very kind to other people because of that. Like, that's just a natural byproduct. When you have low self esteem, it impacts how you treat yourself and others. Like, that statement is very basic and almost a duh like statement, but yet we do it and we see it all the time. Like, think about narcissists. Narcissists lack empathy, but they also um, have a, what's funny is, a really high regard for themselves. But and again, I feel like I mentioned this in a couple episodes ago, but just talking about certain things you have to have peace with, right? Is you're going to have some overlapping in things that narcissists have that you will have as a confident person. Having high self esteem is having a high regard for yourself, which is like, you have to, because esteem is regard. So you have to have that, right? To have high self esteem. Um, but the part is it's rooted in insecurities. And when you are leading, being rooted, when you lead in a way that's rooted in insecurities, you are going to not allow, it's going to negatively impact other people. It's going to just naturally negatively impact other people because that's how you move, because it's rooted in you. And that is why it's important to have the conversation around how do we develop a high self-esteem and a high regard for ourselves, um, because it impacts how we treat other people. And so um, it's so much easier to have a high self-esteem for other people. Like it's so much easier to have a high self-esteem for other people because of the quote that I said, but not only just the quote that I said, but because of it's easier to look at somebody else, especially now in this social media age era that is not going anywhere. And if only, and not if only, but it's only getting worse. The fakeness on social media is only getting worse and it makes me sick. Like, there was this guy who recently went viral, now a couple weeks ago, and Ashton Hall, and he broke the internet with millions of views and retweets and posts and all those different types of things, and people doing parodies of his morning, and it was his morning routine. Like, and as somebody who has a morning routine that wakes up around a certain time and I really value it, I was like, oh man, you making us look bad. But he just had a really unrealistic morning routine, and it was just fake. Like, it was just fake. And the thing that, like, he's super buff and he wasn't attractive to me, but I'm sure plenty attractive to a lot of other people. Football player. And he had like this white woman helping him with certain things, and it just gave off this really weird vibe. Um, but ultimately it was fake. Like, he would hop in a pool at one time and then like 2 minutes later he'd be getting out. Just he just did a lot of different things that gave off like just fakeness. So again, it would be easy, it's easy for somebody, some young person, to sit there and be like, wow, I wish I was that guy, and he, did this and he achieved that, and he, but it's fake. Like, he blew up off of fakeness. I don't want to blow up off of fakeness. I want to blow up off of authenticity. I want to blow up off of realness. But the thing is, oftentimes, and what sucks is we often value more fake things than real things because, ooh, all right, God, is because real things have flaws. Wow. So, a minute ago, I said that I wanted, like, your glasses are going to have, or the lens through which you see yourself through will have or may not have, or will have blemishes and stuff in it. But I didn't want you to see yourself through that. But I think it's also value now, as I'm saying this out loud, to think about how real things will have flaws. So it's not that the lens that excuse me, it's not that the lens through which you see yourself through. I struggle with that. I was feeling like a girl off 3LW. I'm getting sick and tired of your broken promises. um, it's not that the lens that you see yourself through will not have blemishes and cracks and flaws and all those different things. It's that you continue to see yourself as the worthy, valuable human being that you are despite those things. And that's the same connection to confidence. It's despite the adversity. It's despite all the things you had to go through, despite the friction, despite the challenges, despite all of those moments, right? Because that's why resilience is necessary. So real things have flaws. They just do. Like, some of the best diamonds, right? I believe have flaws in them. Like, everything that is authentic and real and true and pure is going to have some type of, because that's a part of the makeup. Anybody can make something try to sit perfectly together and make it appear flawless, but imperfection is real. Perfection is fake. Imperfection is real and perfection is fake. Period. Imperfection is real, imperfection is fake. A lot of people say practice makes perfect, but that joint just isn't true. And the reason why it isn't true is because perfection doesn't last. Like you maybe have one perfect, oh goodness gracious, you may be able to have one perfect possession. And I'm thinking, right, basketball wise, or one perfect performance. But there's going to be some type of something that happens. So again, imperfection is real, perfection is fake. And when we can remember that the goal isn't to be perfect, but the goal is to progress, the mission is to continually get better and to not feel like you have to have it all together and package the right way to begin, to start over, to continue to scale, whatever it may be, and to go about your journey in life and allowing yourself to be imperfect, you will grow because of that. Your self-esteem will increase because you'll give yourself that much more grace. You'll give yourself that much more acceptance. You'll give yourself that much more love because you are able to say imperfection is real. There's no way you could be your authentic self and try to be perfect at the same time. Like you cannot be your authentic self and try to be perfect at the same time. You cannot be your authentic self and be real and be true and also try to avoid failures and flaws. It just doesn't work. It's not real. And that's the question that you have to be able to sit with is am I okay with allowing myself to be imperfect? Am I okay with being cool with just like, yeah, I messed up. I struggle with spelling. Like, I will misspell something all the time, every day. Now, am I working better at trying to make sure that I have less spelling errors? Absolutely, because I think it's an area of growth still to this day. But if I misspell something somewhere, or I mispronounce something, or I say something funny, literally just here on this episode a couple minutes ago, like a couple seconds ago, like I talk funny sometimes and stumble over my words and all these different things. I'm not perfect and I'm okay with that. And I can live with that. But the me that used to be really insecure and had low self esteem umpteen years ago was too embarrassed to be imperfect. Like I had to cover up the imperfections. My low self esteem was already too convoluted and I had a really hard time. And I think that is something that when you allow yourself to be imperfect, there's so much freedom in that. There is freedom in allowing yourself to be imperfect. There's freedom in it. There's freedom in allowing yourself to have flaws. There's freedom in allowing yourself to pursue a life that you want in knowing that, like, I'm going to mess up and I'm okay with that. Like, I want us to let go of this perfect version of whatever thought process you have. Nothing is ever going to go 100% that way in any way. Your development, your growth in no relationship, no scenario, no expectations, like everything, nothing is going to go 100% a perfect way. So again, not to harp on this, but I just really want to make sure that we're able to um just understand that piece and to come back to it because again, I feel like social media um only shows a lot of the not only social media primarily shows the highlights, and it's really easy to get back to my point of us to have a high regard and self-esteem for other people when we only see them through their highlights. If I only see you through your highlights, of course I'm going to have a high regard for you. And the people who I feel like I really admire from a social stance are folks who show more of the whole picture, who show not like, and I don't get it. I don't need you on social media crying about the things you're going through because not everything is for social media. Um, but who are able to talk about certain struggles and able to be really real about certain things and to also stand in their glory on both sides. And that's why I believe humility is at the root of confidence, but also is self esteem. So, um, it's so much easier to have high self esteem for others or to have a high regard for other people. But the thing about self esteem is there's two pieces. Here are two things that can destroy your self esteem: opinions and judgment. The two things that can destroy your self esteem are opinions and judgment. FOPO is the fear of other people's opinions. Your self esteem will take major hits if you allow other people's opinions to guide and to influence your self esteem. because esteem is an opinion. Having a high regard for something is an opinion. It is subjective, but it is yours to have. It's not anybody else's to have. And so if you place your self-worth and your value and the regard that you have for yourself in somebody else's hands based off the subjectivity of what they think and their thoughts and their opinion, that's too it's too finicky, because now it's based off of somebody else's own ideal and it doesn't give you any say over who you are, and you're supposed to have all the say over that. The second one is judgment. Now, let's say you're going off and you're trying to pursue something new. Now, we just talked about fear, we talked about failure, we talked about fear of other people's opinions, and all those different things. Judgment is going to happen. Other people are going to judge you. We are judgmental creatures. It's going to happen whether somebody wants to judge you or not, whether it naturally happens, whether it's overt judgment or what is that, microaggression, whether it's a micro judgment or a macro judgment. Judgment is judgment. And sometimes it comes from a good, not necessarily a good place, but sometimes it comes from a person with a good heart, but people judge. But if you allow your self esteem to go up and down based off the judgment of others, you will never be somebody who has a high self esteem. It'll literally, you are somebody who has low self esteem if the judgment of others prevents you from being able to see yourself in the way that you were created to see yourself. Period. Like, we cannot allow the judgment of others to prevent us from growing and being individuals who have high self-esteem, because people are going to judge. It don't matter how good or how bad you do something. Um, Nike just had a commercial that dropped over the women's Final Four. No, no, no. A couple weeks ago. Um, I don't remember what the why it came up. Women's History Month. There it was. And it was like, so it was a win commercial, and it was like, they say you can't do this, they say you can't do that, they say you can't do this. Like, people just have all these opinions and judgments, literally. And they're like, so do it anyway. They say you can't, so win. They say you can't win, so win. So in that is like, people are always going to have judgments. And what's so dope is in this commercial you have like some of the dopest women in their sport and just in general in this commercial, just assuming that, like, they say you can't, so do it. Assuming that attitude, is assuming that mindset, that demeanor, that "Oh," like, I love it. But again, there's going to be people who just want to judge you simply because that's what they feel they're led to do. And you got to proceed anyways. You got to win anyways. You got to get after it anyways. You have to grow and fall in love with yourself anyways, regardless and despite the judgment that's going to come. Because people, it's like that saying, you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. So you just have to make peace with that. Like, cool. Whose judgment am I worried about more? Right? Or whose judgment I'm worried about less? Or just like, not just get over it, because it's not that easy to get over it, but you have to be able to make peace with it. So here are some thoughts that I have to kind of to give us some practical and tangible things that we can do in order to be able to grow in this area. The thought process first is, you can increase and decrease your self-esteem. You can increase and decrease your self esteem, which is why it's important for you to continually have a self awareness routine that allows you to check in on you and see, how am I doing? Because you can, and sometimes without even knowing, decrease your self esteem. But in order to increase it, you need to be intentional with that process. So here are a couple things that will help you increase your self-esteem. And then obviously the opposite of them will decrease your self-esteem. The first one is respect. Man, y'all, without self-respect, like I said, if you don't have self-respect, you will not be able to have high self-esteem. It just will not happen, because we have esteem and high regard and have high value for things that we respect. You can't have esteem and high regard and value and have disrespect for that thing. Those are two different things that doesn't match. So it makes me think about the concept and thought of cognitive dissonance, right? Like, you can't tell yourself, "Oh, I respect me and I have so much self-respect and whoop whoop whoop," but yet you don't value you, or you don't treat yourself like you value you, or You don't hold yourself in a high regard. And I'll be clear, holding yourself in a high regard is not the same as thinking you are better than anybody else. So having high self-esteem is not the same of thinking you are better than anybody else. Like that's actually like part of it. Like I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I'm just better than fill in the blank. I'm just better than who I used to be. I'm better than who it is that I don't want to be. I'm better than all the ways that society tries to make it out to seem like I'm supposed to be. Like those are the things that I'm better than. And I'm better than having a self-limiting belief. I'm better than being negative. I'm better than like that's the better than mentality, but it's never better than right anybody else. But it also is having a respect for you. The foundation is respect because again, when you respect something, it shows that you value something. And that something in this case is you and who we are. The second piece is love. It's it reminds me of um like somebody and somebody sitting in the tree. KISSING. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby and the baby carriage. But like before, in order for them to be sitting in the tree, they had to like each other. Because why would they be sitting in the tree? Like I'm not sitting in the tree with somebody I don't like. So they said first comes like the children's rhyme said first comes love and then marriage, and obviously that's just a total society like makeup of that's how easy it's supposed to be, right? But in order for me to be sitting in the tree with somebody, I gotta like somebody. So before I get to love, I have to like, but I also think there's a balance and a continuation of love and like. Um, I read somebody's, it wasn't a memoir, it was a couple pages of a book. It was a chapter in a book inside. It was a chapter in a book of many different, oh my gosh. Yes, a book of many different chapters, but because a book has a bunch of chapters, but it was many different authors, should I say. And I read a chapter in a book with by an author that I know, and she was talking about her experience with her one of her children, and her son had been diagnosed with autism, but he also had a lot of anger and emotional um, things that he was struggling with as well, and he became very violent towards her and her younger son. And in the book, she's talking and wrestling with how do I love my son and I don't want him at the same time because he's causing harm to me and my other son. And he tried to like burn the house down. He physically abused both of them. And all of this is in the book. So I'm not like telling her business. It's in the book. I mean, I am telling her business, but it wasn't a secret told to me. It was in the book. But she's actively saying and actively writing, like, I love you, but I don't want you, but I was chosen to be your mom and I don't like you. And I just thought, especially in that relationship between a mother and a son, a mother and a child, of like, I love you because I have this love for you that just happens right when you have a kid. Um, but I really don't like you and your behaviors, and I don't want you around. And he had got locked up, and she wanted him to stay locked up. He had went to rehab, and she's like, "Good, I don't want you around." So I bring this up because having a lot of folks have that same relationship with themselves. It's hard for them to get to love because they don't even like themselves. And it's like, I can't separate me from me, but a lot of times we do separate ourselves from ourselves. We like create a disconnect, and that comes with like not sitting and thinking and not spending time with us and not being able to get to know ourselves better because we just don't like us. So we don't really want to be around us. And we can distract ourselves with a lot of other different things, but it's like you can never get away from you. You could change your environment, but you're still you. But I also bring that up because oftentimes we kind of forget that like still matters. Yet love is like the describing the relationship between that mother and her son was that like that's unconditional love. But even in her having unconditional love for her son, she had to be able to get back to like liking him and trying to like him. And I think that as individuals, it's easy for us to not fall in love with us because we struggle with liking us. And but we have to be able to get to a space of unconditional love for us and unconditional like. And maybe not even like, yes, unconditional like, because it's gonna ebb your ebbs and flow. Like, ooh, I don't like that I did that. I don't like how I acted then. But it's the unconditional love that keeps us in that relationship to want to still fight for that like. And there's also times where like I feel like I'm saying like a lot because I am. Um, but there's times where I really love you, but I don't like you right now. And those are conversations I've had to have with myself. And anybody who's ever been in any relationship can probably look back and say, hmm, I love you, but I don't like you right now. And I feel like we need permission for that, because when you give yourself that permission, you don't fall out of developing your self-esteem. You're being real. You're being true. And when you're able to acknowledge what you don't like about you in that moment, you can do something about it. You're not going to gloss over it. You're not going to act as if it's not true. You're going to do something. You should do something about whatever it is. And sometimes it's just make peace. So, which was funny because that leads me into the third one, is peace. In order for you to increase your self esteem, you have to make peace with who you are. But in order to make peace with who you are, you have to know who you are. So, in order for you to grow in your self esteem, you have to make peace with who you are. But in order to have peace with who you are, you have to know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, you are going to move in a disjointed space, in a shuffled space. Your energy is going to be like ruffled feathers. It's going to be agitated. It could be irritated. It could be You're going to come off in a way that lacks the calmness of peace. Now, peace doesn't mean perfect. Peace doesn't mean have it all together, right? Peace just means I'm accepting this said thing, how it is. And so, in order for you to grow in your self esteem, and you have to have some peace, you have to be able to get to know you, and that is all of you, and make peace with you, flaws and all. And that is the hard part, is to grow in love and to grow in like with yourself. You have to be able to make peace with those things. And those things are different for everybody, but you'll never be able to be your most confident self. You'll never be able to be your most have as much high self-esteem as you deserve to have about who you are if you don't make peace with who you are. But in order to do that, you have to know who you are. In order to do that, you have to be able to go on a journey, a continual journey of self-awareness. And the last thing that you need to do is you need to be patient. If you want to have high self esteem, you need to be patient. And I say be patient because growing in like with you and growing in love with you is going to require patience, period. Because patience is the wrestle. You're going to, in order to grow and like with something or anyone, in love with something, and in order to have respect with something, the flaws and the dust or things are going to come up. But when you have the ability to be patient, you can trust the process. Maybe you're trying to transition into, like, I want to start dressing different. I want to start a new career. I want to start elevating this gift that I have. I want to grow in this talent. It's going to be messy. So you have to be patient. It's not going to all fit right in a row. There's going to be a bunch of imperfections. There's going to be a lot of different failures. So you have to be patient. And the reason why you have to be patient is so you don't quit. I can't have you quitting on you. I need you to have as much high self esteem as possible. And in order to do that, you have to be patient. Got to be patient, y'all. So now here are 4 ways that you can start developing high self esteem. Like, those are 4 things that you needed to have in order to have high self esteem. So now here are 4 ways to help get you started on developing this joint. Okay. Number 1 is I need you to make a list of why you regard others. I need you to make a list of why you regard other people. So make a list of those people that you regard, and then make a list of like why. Like, why do you have a high regard for those folks? Like, why do you admire them? And then what is it about them or in them that you admire and desire? The reason why this is important is because it's doing a scout on other people and finding out information of um what is it about them that I really like, because we're drawn to certain things, and oftentimes we're drawn to things that we also want to see in ourselves. And so I mentioned earlier, I think it was on yesterday, last week's episode, but just about like I'm a fan of Kevin Hart and Issa Rae. Like those are my two, like put them together. Oh my gosh. But I'm a fan of them, especially Issa Rae. I'll talk about because she went from being an awkward black girl to this like glamorous black girl. But I'm sure she's still an awkward black girl at the same time. And even though she's not mass presenting, and no, she's not a lesbian, she's just still a glamorous black woman who holds herself with a high regard, and she creates the way she loves to create, and creates jobs for other people, does and is an amazing businesswoman and CEO. And she's funny and she's chill in herself, and I love it. And that is something that I aspire to be as a person. Kevin Hart, not just because bruh's funny, but because he is somebody who's been like, man, I done effed up. Here are my F ups. You see me F up. And I'm going to keep effing up, but I'm also keep being me, and I'm going to work really hard. And I admire that in him. I admire people's resilience. I admire people's ability to get after it and build their dreams. And so those are folks that I hold in high regard. Beyonce is another one. Why? Because the chick is fire for multiple different reasons. Um, but you know what? Even as I was just thinking about a couple of these folks, there's a lot of cisgender hetero folks that I have high regard for, but I ooh we I can't name Lena Waithe. Besides Lena Waithe, that's the only mass presenting lesbian black woman that I know that I have a regard for. And that's sad. So if we think about how a little bit ago I was talking about like I had low self-esteem, low regard for myself, all of that because of all of my different intersections and identity, a lot of that can go back to like I didn't see it. Like I didn't see anybody else who no, I wasn't mass presenting as a I kind of was. I had a mass presenting ponytail. Ah, that's funny. I had a mass presenting ponytail. Now I got the now I'm the auntie with the fade, but um I didn't see anybody. I still barely see anybody that I respect outside of Lena Waithe. And she can't be the only one. Like, I don't look up to Young M.A. for multiple reasons. But Lena Waithe is a creator. She's a CEO. She's a businesswoman. She creates other jobs. She speaks her truth. She holds herself down. She holds her lady down. Like all of that, I love it. But that's only one person. That's not okay. And so I strive to be somebody um, who other people can put on their list as a mass presenting woman who loves God and is a CEO, an entrepreneur who leads in different ways and is a creative and creates spaces for other people. But this is why representation matters. A lack of representation can influence other people to have low self esteem, and that's a problem because you also need to be able to see other people break through certain barriers and be as dope as they can be, so that way you can believe you can do the same thing. And I talk about it before, but it's self efficacy. It helps you grow in that area. Um, so I need you to make a list of all the people you admire. You don't have to go super deep, but the people you admire, you respect, and then what are the qualities that they possess that you're like, I really like these qualities in them, and this is why I admire them, and why I desire them. The second thing I need you to do is I need you to either heal your relationship with yourself, um, or just start having one. It depends. Like some of you might have a healthy relationship, so you want to keep growing in that. And some of us need to like heal our relationship with ourselves. But either way, I need you to have a healthy relationship with you. And the reason is like even in Jewish, it stands for intentionally seeking healing to internally secure your health. If you don't have a healthy relationship with you, you will not be able to maximize your purpose so you can actualize your potential. You won't. You won't be able to have respect for yourself. You won't be able to have any high regard or self esteem for who you are as an individual, because you're not healthy. And when things aren't healthy, it can't scale. It can't grow. It can't maximize. It can't flourish. And we need you to be able to flourish. So you go on that journey, whether that's going to therapy, getting some coaching, having some conversations. I don't know what it needs to look like, but you need to figure that out for yourself. The third thing I need you to do is I need you to listen to how you talk to you and how you talk about you. I need you to listen to how you talk to you and how you talk about you. How you're talking about you out loud when you're doing certain things and how you're talking to you in your head. If you want to have high self esteem, you have to get control over that voice in your head. You have to get control, um, and maybe not even control, but you also have to be able to manage it, right? Manage that voice that is wanting to have some self-limiting beliefs and talking down on you, and starting to control the way that you're thinking and have some control over your thought process when it comes to you. Because if you have a negative thought pattern about who you are, you're gonna have negative and low self-esteem. It just is what it is. So it all starts with how we're thinking about ourselves, and right, going back to how we perceive ourselves. Um, Having constructive self-talk, right? So there's like positive and there's negative, but also I think constructive and confidence and balanced self-talk. Like, yes, get in on you. Like, I really love you, but I don't like how you're acting right now. Have that stern conversation with yourself, but then big yourself up. Hold yourself accountable. Bring yourself, into the fold, and not just punk yourself and put yourself out and put yourself down. It's easy for us to do that, but we want to be able to draw ourselves in with some constructive self talk and some confident self talk. But if you're like, man, Reese, I don't know how to do that, then cool. That goes back to us healing our relationship with ourselves, so we can learn how to talk to ourselves the not necessarily the right way, but the best way. And the last thing is an actual activity I need you to do. I call it 831. You can change these numbers however you want, but the simplest way to do it is 831. I need you to write down 8 things that you love about you. You're like, oh my gosh, like, big up. I love these things about me. They can be physical, they could be character wise, personality, whatever it is. 8 things that you love about you. 3 things that you're like, I'm not a big fan of these 3 things about me, but I can change them. So, 3 things that you're like, I'm not a big fan of these 3 things, but I also have the power to change them. And at some point, I will do that. The last one is one thing that you're not a fan of about yourself and you do not have the power to change. Now, this one it could go in either direction, but I need you to write down one thing that you're like, I'm not a fan of this when it comes to me, and I don't have the power to change it. So, this is going to cause you to be and have some peace. And when you have peace, it's going to require you to have some patience with that thing. When it comes up, that thing is going to, whatever that thing is going to flare up at some point in time. You have to be patient with yourself. And remember, I have peace with me. I have peace with who I am. And there's a reason why it's 8 things that you love, 3 things, and one thing. Is because we need to obviously focus here, but there's all, obviously, we're not going to avoid, right? We don't want to live in avoidance and act as if certain things aren't what they are. But that doesn't mean that we should perceive and see ourselves through that lens. We're just going to have and make peace with it. So I hope that you found and got a lot of good information out of this. I hope that you found some value in this. There is a lot for us to think about. There's a lot for me to think about. Um, as I'm talking to you again, I'm always talking to me, and I'm just like, man, like, just let's just grow. That's the whole point of this practice. That's the whole point of this space, is for us to be able to grow more in like and more in love with ourselves, in knowing and having a high self-esteem, so that way we can be our most confident self as we execute, as we serve, as we love, as we vibe, as we chill, as we rest, as we fight, as you do all these different things. I want you to be able to show up holistically. I want you to show up as your whole self, flaws and all, and loving those flaws and loving yourself. So that is it. I hope that you will share this with somebody who're like, man, you might need to hear this message. This was a good one. So share it, like it, leave me a comment, and let me know what are some thoughts. If you want to leave your 831 in the comments, I would love to see that as well. But as always, do what you guys got to do. I love it. Keep empowering in yourselves. Keep investing in yourselves. Remember that you are the bag, and you are worthy of living out your purpose with confidence. Until next time, I'm your coach, Dr. Reese. I love y'all. Peace.